Hi, thank you for watching Digging to China. I'm Dong Sheng. If you have not done so already, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you very much. Today, I'd like to share a significant piece of news from China that has garnered considerable international attention. On February 25th, the prominent Chinese party newspaper Guangming Daily featured a commentary authorized by Zhang Yongjun, the Deputy Chief Economist of the China Center for International Economic Exchanges. The article titled "The Inability to Dampen China's Spirits Amidst the Eastward Rise and the Westward Decline Trend" predicts a substantial likelihood of diminished economic growth in the United States this year, potentially leading to negative growth in a single quarter. Concurrently, the article asserts that China's economy will sustain a brisk growth trajectory, underscoring the overarching global economic shifts towards the East and a decline in the West. The article argues that the surge in the United States' share of the global economy is mainly attributed to short-term factors, like the escalation in U.S. price levels and a substantial appreciation of the U.S. dollar. Additionally, although the U.S. proportion has increased, the overall trend of developed economies witnessing a decline in their share and a simultaneous rise in the share of emerging and developing economies persists. This is due to the slowed growth and, in some cases, negative growth observed in other advanced economies. The article suggests that when considering the broader perspective, the proportion of the global economy controlled by developed countries, primarily led by the United States, will witness a temporary increase followed by a subsequent decline. In contrast, the share held by developing countries, spearheaded by China, is expected to undergo a temporary dip followed by a subsequent rise. Consequently, the prevailing trend of eastward ascent and westward descent continues to be a substantial transformation in the world economic scenario. The article points out that due to a significant depreciation of the Chinese yuan against the US dollar in 2023, China's GDP for that year, when expressed in dollars, remains generally stable or slightly lower compared to 2022. Meanwhile, the proportion of the United States GDP in the global GDP has been steadily increasing for 2 consecutive years, resulting in a relative decline in China's share of the global GDP. Some foreign media, basing their analysis on this, suggest a bleak outlook for China's development and claim that the global economic trend of eastward ascent and westward descent has ceased. However, such an interpretation seems incomplete, lacking both a historical perspective and forward-looking insights. The article contends that when considering the comprehensive outlook, the temporary rise in the global economic share of developed nations, primarily led by the United States, is expected to undergo a correction. At the same time, the share of developing countries, spearheaded by China, which briefly declined, is anticipated to recover. The article concludes by reiterating that the overarching trends of eastward ascent and westward descent will continue as a significant shift in the global economic landscape. Additionally, the article emphasizes that the fundamental trajectory of China's economic rebound and sustained improvement remains steadfast, and China is poised to make even greater contributions to global economic development through its commitment to high-quality growth. This article has attracted widespread attention and extensive discussions, particularly from international mainstream media. Despite not originating from official Chinese state media such as Xinhua News Agency, People's Daily, or China Central Television, Guangming Daily holds a significant position as a core party newspaper within the Chinese Communist Party. As a result, its expression of certain viewpoints has stimulated international discourse to some extent. Notably, in the past 2 years, Xi Jinping has gradually refrained from explicitly mentioning the concept of eastward ascent and westward descent in formal context. The peak frequency and assertiveness with which he highlighted this idea occurred in 2021, a time when China had successfully controlled the COVID-19 pandemic while the West grappled with pandemic-related challenges. Xi Jinping's heightened confidence led to the articulation of eastward ascent and westward descent, accompanied by a series of exaggerated and purportedly historical judgments regarding the prevailing circumstances and the momentum favoring China. However, in 2022, the situation took a sharp downturn. While the rest of the world was largely moving past pandemic control measures, China found itself grappling with a renewed surge in COVID-19 cases. Prolonged and incessant lockdowns inflicted catastrophic impacts on China's economic and social landscape, leading to widespread discontent and criticism. Given these challenging circumstances, Xi Jinping refrained from revisiting the narrative of eastward ascent and westward descent, a noticeable departure from its prominent emphasis in 2021. Therefore, emergence of this concept by China's party media after a 2-year hiatus has understandably sparked considerable international attention, given the significant shift in circumstances. Here are my takeaways. Firstly, leaders of every nation in each leadership term endeavor to find ways to inspire their citizens, motivate the public, and foster a sense of encouragement in society, shaping a motivational public opinion. Deng Xiaoping motivated the Chinese populace by instilling a sense of crisis. He frequently delved into lessons from modern history, consistently cautioning that lagging behind would result in setbacks. Through this cultivation of a crisis-aware mentality, the Chinese people also gained a profound sense of national self-confidence and pride. This approach characterized Deng Xiaoping's method, employing a consciousness of impending challenges. Xi Jinping takes a completely different approach. He seeks to energize the Chinese people by asserting China's strength, surpassing what ordinary citizens might perceive, whether it's the concept of eastward ascent and westward descent, or the assertion that the current situation and momentum are in China's favor. Xi Jinping proclaims victories in advance to inspire the Chinese population. This represents a distinct propaganda strategy compared to Deng Xiaoping's approach. Regarding which method is better or more effective in boosting the confidence of the Chinese people and which one resonates more effectively with the Chinese populace, it is reasonable to believe that netizens residing in China hold a more authoritative perspective on the subject. Secondly, in the past 2 years, Xi Jinping's flawed dynamic zero-COVID policies, coupled with his hands-on directions, led to China having one of the latest conclusions of its pandemic prevention efforts globally. The far-reaching negative impact on China's society, politics, and economy cannot be understated. Additionally, Xi Jinping displays a notable characteristics of flexibility, which may indeed be an advantage, especially when compared to a rigid and unyielding approach. His ability to adapt comes without significant ideological constraints, allowing him to openly acknowledge mistakes. In November of the previous year, he even traveled to the United States to admit errors and commit not to challenge the global order or the leadership position of the United States. Yet, in 2021, Xi Jinping exhibited considerable assertiveness, not only challenging the established global order but also positioning China as a global navigator, advocating for eastward ascent and westward descent, and asserting that the prevailing circumstances favored China. This also extended to challenging the leadership position of the United States. However, following the pandemic failures in 2022, there was a discernible moderation in Xi Jinping's stance in 2023. However, right after the conclusion of the 2024 Chinese New Year, Xi Jinping's confidence surged once again. Was it due to some significant achievements or positive data from China? Not exactly. This time, Xi Jinping initiated a call to promote an optimistic discourse surrounding the Chinese economy. Official Chinese media portrayed a continuous narrative of moving from one victory to another, leading Xi Jinping to embrace it once more. The assertion of eastward ascent and westward descent, coupled with the belief that the current situation and the momentum favor China, contributed to the resurgence of Xi Jinping's confidence. Therefore, this shift is not a result of tangible changes within China or the global landscape, but rather a consequence of Xi Jinping becoming entangled in the narrative he cultivated, unable to detach himself from it. It's a fascinating phenomenon indeed. Thirdly, since assuming office, Xi Jinping has consistently employed nationalism as a pivotal strategy in his governance. This brand of nationalism serves as the bedrock of his political philosophy, emphasizing both external conflicts and the triumphs within those struggles. Without this injection of nationalist fervor, his governance could face instability. Consequently, whenever the situation in China experiences a modest stabilization, Xi Jinping tends to resurrect the narrative of eastward ascent and westward descent. This recurrence is unsurprising, considering the integral role nationalism plays in his approach to governance. If China's economic situation shows signs of improvement in the first quarter of this year, Xi Jinping's assertive approach might revert to the level observed in early 2021 or possibly exceed it. Hence, recent international discussions have raised the question of whether China's diplomatic stance might shift from the confrontational wolf warrior approach to a more diplomatic panda approach. I contend that such speculations demonstrate a lack of understanding of the Chinese Communist Party and Xi Jinping. He is fundamentally tied to the wolf warrior style, as deviating from his approach would alter the essence of Xi Jinping's leadership. In the fourth aspect, examining Xi Jinping's attitude towards the global competitive landscape reveals a somewhat self-deceptive mindset. Firstly, there is a refusal to acknowledge the disparities with developed nations. Secondly, a fabricated narrative emerges depicting a reality that not only bridges the gap but falsely portrays a state of surpassing. This form of thinking, candidly speaking, fundamentally reflects psychological fragility. The rationale is simple. If you admit the gap, at least you recognize your mission and understand where your aspirations lie. However, denial of the gap results in a loss of hope. When there is a clear gap, but you insist it doesn't exist, you forfeit the driving force for competition and the direction of that competition. Therefore, this method of self-encouragement not only fails to resolve issues but exacerbates them, showcasing the characteristics of someone who is weak and timid. Thank you for watching. Please leave a comment and subscribe to my channel. Just click the subscribe button right here. I'll see you again shortly. Until then, be well.